Hi guys, today I have a video that I've been procrastinating on for way too long, and I have so many releases in front of me that I had full intentions to review. I started filming looks with I think all of these palettes, and I just never ended up making that like final review video. So what I want to do today is I want to review a bunch of releases that I haven't talked about on my channel yet. I have quite a few. I have a lot of new releases. I have some older releases, I guess, in the makeup world. But I just want to tell you my opinion on these, even though it is sort of late for a review, but I feel like better late than never, right? And I'm sure a lot of you were waiting for me to post videos on some of these releases, so I just want to give you my opinions, and maybe you haven't picked up these palettes already, and it could be helpful, or you just want to hang out and watch, so I guess that's what we're just gonna go ahead and do. I don't have like film looks with all of these palettes. Some of them I've just kind of played with on my own. I will insert as much footage as I can while I talk about these releases. I think I've done swatches with all of them. You're just gonna have to see when we go through this, but I'll try to give you as much information as I possibly can. So I'm wondering if I should start with maybe I should start with the newer releases, the ones that I feel like you guys are probably going to be the most interested in. So let me go ahead and do that. I guess I'll start with the most controversial one, I guess, because most people watch in the beginning of a video. So this is the new By Us brand that was started by Odens Eye. This is a sister brand for Odens Eye. I haven't watched a single review of this palette from other creators, and I feel like I haven't seen that many people post about it. I'm really not sure. Like, I've been very bad at watching YouTube videos lately, especially when it comes to makeup. So this is the Garden Busters palette, and I had full intentions of making a video with this before the launch, but it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen for various reasons, and so I want to talk about it now. And I think the first thing I will say with this is that I'm a little confused why they decided to start another brand. Is this supposed to be more geared towards like a younger audience? Is that what the deal with this is? Because it feels very like childish to me, but because it feels very childish to me, like I'm not sure, I don't know, the color story, the box format, I just don't understand who would really buy this. Like it could just be a me thing. Like is there a market for this? Maybe, and I'm just not aware of it. But I definitely have some opinions on this. I will say that when I first got this palette, I thought the color story was really nice, and I was very excited to play with it. And because it was a sister brand to Odens Eye, I expected the formula of this to be really good. But I feel like there is something with this formula that is different than their regular formula. And I don't know if these are made in different labs, but I'll get to that when I start reviewing the newest palette from Odens Eye as well, because I feel like there are some similarities, like in my mind. This is just me speculating. I feel like maybe they switched labs, and like now they're using the same lab for this company as well as their other. I really don't know. Like I feel like there's something going on that I'm just like in my head, something feels different. And I feel like with this, the formulas in here are interesting. I feel like the mattes are pigmented, but they're a little sheer, I guess would be the right word. I don't know. I found that they just didn't stick that well on my primer, and they didn't build as nicely as I was hoping. They were still pigmented, but it just took a little while extra to like get the pigment to stick on my eyes. And I don't know if, because I have switched to using the P. Louise primer for quite some time now, maybe that is how I feel this way about this formula and about the newest release from Odens Eye as well. But I usually don't have problems at all with Odens Eye's matte, so I found it kind of strange that I did with it. I'm not saying it's the same brand, but like since it is a sister brand, I'm sort of like in my mind grouping them together as one. Am I the only one who's done it? I don't know. For the shimmers, I don't like the marbled effects in shadows. It's just not something that I personally enjoy working with, because I find it hard to get a smooth application on the lid without it looking patchy. And it's like, even if you swirl your finger through these, like you just can't properly like mix the colors. And it seems more of like an aesthetic reason in the palette, like it looks cool, but then practically using it, I just don't understand it. So I wasn't the biggest fan of some of these shimmers. I will say, once you got them on your eyes and you were able to smooth them out, I had to use my finger and stuff sometimes just to like make sure that everything mixed together on the lids. But they did look really nice. Like the shimmers in this palette looks beautiful on the eyes, and they wore okay as well. Some of them creased a little bit. I find that some of these were a little bit on the chunky side and like almost felt a little, I've explained shadows as waxy before, and I don't know if that's the right way to explain it. If you haven't touched a shadow that feels waxy, it almost like it's a little sticky and thick. I don't know, but it's not my favorite kind of shimmer formula, so for me, this palette was a bit of a miss. I like the color story, I sort of like the idea behind it, but I'm just not sure if this brand was needed. That's just me being completely honest. Let me know what you think. So while we're on sort of Odens Eye, I thought I could review this one as well. This is the Eternal Twilight palette, and this is one of their bigger palettes. So I think this is a really fun concept. I like the sort of cool tones together with the more warm tones, and like the contrast between the two. I think that's really interesting and different, and I really enjoyed the looks that I did with this palette. I feel like there's a lot you can do with this color story that is quite unique to this palette, and not something you could maybe do with other palettes without having to pull in like a bunch of different palettes into one look. And I really like the color story of this, but again, I felt like with the mattes, and even when I swatched the mattes, this is when I noticed like the biggest difference in their formulas. It wasn't so much like, yes, using them on the eyes, but like swatching them. Usually Odens Eye's mattes swatch like an absolute dream, and like they're super pigmented and there's no sheerness or patchiness or anything like that. But with a lot of these shades, like they just did not swatch well. They barely like stuck onto my arm, and I felt like I had to build them up a lot. And I felt the same way about this palette when using it. So I don't know if they switched their formula. I really don't know. Again, this is just me speculating. This is just how I feel. I don't know what's going on, and I'm not gonna like email them and be like, hey, like what happened? Even though I would say that, you know, because I have done a collab with them and stuff, I have a decent relationship with the brand, but I'm just not direct enough to want to do that. And I do want to still mention that my Mighty Monster palette with Odens Eye is still available, and I feel like this formula is better than this, I'm not gonna lie. Not being biased or anything, but I feel like I notice a difference when I use my palette than when I use these newer releases. So just something to keep in mind. I feel like with the shimmers here as well, some of these are so just like sticky and thick and waxy and a little flaky, and I don't really enjoy that formula. Like I know they've had shadows like that in palettes in the past, but not this many. This shade right here, this shade, this shade, this shade. Like there are so many of them, and I don't like that formula. There are some beautiful shimmers in here though, like the more smooth ones, absolutely stunning. Like really enjoy all of these. That is a really, really pretty shade. And overall, I would say I like this palette, but it's just the formula isn't my favorite from Odens Eye, so not sure what's going on there. With that collection, there were also some blushes and highlighters. I haven't swatched these actually for you, and I've barely used these if I'm being completely honest, because I totally forgot that these were in the box, and I started using the palette, and then I was like, oh, actually. So the blushes are right here. There is one that is more of a sort of blush topper. I have used this one time, and I felt like I feel with a lot of the glowy blushes from Odens Eye, it's just like a lot of glitter, and I just don't enjoy that on my face. So not my favorite kind of formula. This blush is absolutely gorgeous, and even though these look quite dark in the pan, they're definitely usable with a light hand. They blend out really nicely, and overall I like Odens Eye's regular matte blush formula a lot more than their glowy stuff. Let's talk about the highlighters. These as well were, I feel, kind of similar to the highlighters in the previous launch that they had not that long ago. These formulas are exactly the same in that they are like sort of multi-chromes, duochromes, but they are very like glittery. I'm trying to like find a way to hold these so you can actually see them. Absolutely failing. Let me just show you one at a time. So you can see they have sort of a flip to it if you look in the mirror. This one is like a purpley bluish, I don't know, hard to explain. Also very glittery formula. I keep saying that, but these are very glittery, and they don't have like that much color to them. So on the face, they're just gonna look like glitter sparkles. And it's not my favorite. So I don't see myself using these really on the eyes, or no, on the face that often, but they are really, really pretty on the eyes as eyeshadows. You can see this one has a strong like blue to purple shift in it. Really, really pretty again. Like I like the idea of these. I just don't know if they're my favorite product, but I can see some people loving these and like using them every single day because they are a nice product, just not my perfect product. Now let's move on from Odens Eye, and I want to talk about a palette that was released by Fantasy Cosmetica. And this is actually a collaboration with Makeup Just for Fun, and I have met her and she is a sweetheart. So this is the palette that she came out with, and I've talked about Fantasy Cosmetica many times in the past. I've done videos with I think all of their launches, and I think they have another one coming soon as well, which I'm excited about. But I will say for this one, the color story of this one isn't my favorite, and that is again just like a personal preference thing. Like, I know that Amanda is way more into sort of these more muted grungy tones than I am, and I just feel like these don't look that good on me because of my coloring. So nothing against the color story in that sense. It's just like this isn't a palette that I would have picked up myself. Like, if I saw it in a store and I walked past it, like, I wouldn't have been drawn to this. But for the sake of reviewing it, I think that the mattes perform really well. They're a very nice formula, like Fantasy Cosmetica always has. The shimmers aren't my favorite from them because some of them are more like on the satin side, like this shade, this shade, this shade. Honestly, all of these except for this one and this one, I would say, are more sort of satiny, and it's not my favorite kind of formula. But again, this is a collaboration, this is what she wanted, so I'm not going to be like, oh my god, this is a bad formula. No, like, this is what she wanted, and I'm sure that she is super happy with this, and this is a palette that she can use on a daily basis. But for me, not my perfect palette, but I'm very happy for her that she was able to create a palette with them that she probably absolutely loves and gets so much joy out of using. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to like that color story as well. But for me, it's not my favorite Fantasy Cosmetica palette, and that is totally okay. Next up, for another new release, this is the Poison Garden palette by Bella Beauty Bar. You guys know I love them as a brand. I think they're awesome. This palette is really interesting. So this is, I would say, very much like a Halloween palette for me, color story wise. I really like the color story of this, and I've had a lot of fun playing with this. This is definitely the good formula that I'm used to from Bella Beauty Bar. If you like the color story of this, I think you're gonna really like this palette. Color story wise, it's not my perfect color story. I wish there were some lighter shimmers, again, just a me thing, but quality wise, this palette is really nice. And if you think that you would like this, would recommend picking this up. I will leave all of these linked down below in my description box. I don't even know which of these are available anymore, but I still wanted to give my review on these because they're either going to come back in stock or they're, you know, or still available. So if they are something that you've been eyeing, at least now you sort of know how I feel about these. And I know a lot of you like to hear my opinions about things because I feel like I'm maybe a little bit more honest than a lot of people. But I do think this is a really nice palette, and I can absolutely see myself using this again and playing with this again. And this shade up here is absolutely stunning. I really enjoy this. This one as well. Super pretty. So I'm happy to have this palette in my collection. And as always, Bella Beauty Bar's palettes are magnetic. So if you have more palettes from her and you're someone who likes to move shadows around, like make your own palettes or make your own custom palettes, then this would be probably a great one to depop. Now let's move into some older releases. I have two here from Ensley Rain, and I bought both of these myself. I'm not on her PR list, but I do have an affiliated code with the brand. So I'm gonna leave all of my codes and links and all of that down below in my description box next to where I link these products. So let's talk about the Cold Moon palette first. This palette I've had a really good time with. I think this is so beautiful. I honestly haven't played with this as much as I wanted to. And now looking at it, I'm like, ah, man, I really want to dip into this again because there are so many beautiful shades. I love the shimmers in this. And honestly, the mattes from Ensley Rain are some of my favorites. And I did not expect that to be the case at all when I first tried the brand, because everybody would always talk about their shimmers and be like, oh my god, they have the best shimmer formula ever. But honestly, their mattes are so underrated and so good, so easy to work with, super pigmented, and their shimmers obviously are out of this world, like beautiful. There are, of course, like some more flaky, thicker shades in this, like there are in their other palettes as well, but I find these to be a lot easier to work with than, say, some of the Odens Eye ones, because these aren't as sticky. Like, yeah, they're maybe a little flaky, but I feel like they smooth out better and they wear better on me. So just something to keep in mind if this is a kind of formula that you maybe struggle with. I feel like these are easier to work with, especially if you don't mind using a finger, which I'm kind of like about. Like, I get that some formulas are just better used with a finger, but if I don't have to, I won't. Let's talk about this one as well. This is the Groovy Garden palette. This could be one of my favorite palettes from Ensley Rain. I think this color story is so up my alley. I love this bottom row here of mattes. I think they're so yummy, and I love warm tone neutrals more than cool tones. So I feel like this kind of neutral row is more up my alley than the other palette, but those are really pretty as well. I love the greens up here. I love the sort of mauve shades together with all of these. The shimmer is really pretty as well, and I'm just really happy I picked up this palette. And I like that these palettes don't have mirrors in them. I don't know why. Maybe that's just me. Sometimes I want a mirror and sometimes I don't, but I feel like the artwork sort of makes the palette like a better experience when using it. I don't know, maybe that's weird, but I really enjoy both of these palettes. And I think that Ensley Rain just has a really, really good formula. I have two things left here that I want to talk about. These are definitely older releases, and if you don't care about these, that's totally fine. I get it, but I want to talk about this palette from Dede Signature, and this is called the Ultimate Cappuccino Eyeshadow Palette. This is, like I said, quite old, but honestly, I've really enjoyed this palette. I think it's a very nice sort of basic neutral palette with maybe a twist to it, and if you want simple looks, these mattes perform really well. There's a couple of pops of color, and these shimmers are really pretty as well. And I have to admit that one of my most used palettes this year has actually been some singles that I have from Dede Signature. She sent me like build your own palette thing and like a bunch of these neutral shimmers, and I looked at these and I was like, that's so boring. But honestly, the amount of times that I've used just like one of these as an all shimmer look on my eyes, I'm embarrassed to admit because it's a lot. And they're so beautiful and wear so well, and they're just really pretty. So if you're looking for just like very basic shimmers that you can use on a daily basis that are neutral, like don't sleep on those because they're absolutely stunning. And this palette is really nice as well, and it also has sort of some of those same shimmers, but obviously not in singles. The last release that I want to talk about is the Golden palette from Natasha Denona, and this isn't even her newest release anymore. That's when you know that this is old. And I don't have a lot to say about this other than I'm very underwhelmed. Like, I really thought that I would like this because I love the matte selection in it. I think I thought these was gonna be, these were English. I thought these were gonna be some of like my favorite neutral mattes in my collection and a palette that I could like reach for very often when I wasn't reviewing something, wanted a super easy, simple, neutral look. But honestly, the shimmers are just meh. They're so bad and so boring and just very bland. And like comparing these shimmers and this palette to the singles from Dede Signature is just like night and day. Like these are just so shimmery, so sparkly, so metallic, and I just find these to be extremely lackluster. And if you're someone who just likes something more on the subtle side, you probably love this, but that is not me, and I need to realize that Natasha Denona's shimmers just are simply not doing it for me anymore, even though, was it the Yucca palette that had some really, really pretty shimmers that were like really sparkly and beautiful? But I feel like with the last releases, I've just been like, why do I keep buying these? It's just dumb. So I've only used this, I think, 3 times. And every time I've been kind of just like, meh, like I wish I was using something else instead. I also did pick up the highlighter palette, which I'm also just very meh about. Like it's not that great. This shade is too dark for me. This one is too light for me. This one I can use and have used on its own many times. These two mixed together, they're okay. But honestly, the one that I keep going back to all the time has been my Pat McGrath highlighter in one of the holiday palettes from like 3 years ago, I don't even know anymore. But this shade, can you see like the dip that I have in this? Like it's what is on my face today. I absolutely love this. When I don't know which highlighter to wear, I just grab this and I put it on my face because it just looks good with everything. It's beautiful. So I don't need any other neutral, like what was I thinking? Why did I buy that? I don't know. I'm just over it. I'm over it at this point. I'm just probably not going to buy any more like mainstream releases when it comes to eyeshadows unless Pat McGrath actually comes out with a color story that's different than the other ones, which I'm not holding my breath. And I don't think anybody else is at this point either. So those are going to be, oh wait, almost forgot something. And let's go back to the, God, I am so disoriented. Let's go back to the Fantasy Cosmetica release because this actually came with a full collection. I forgot to mention it, and these are like some of the best parts of it. So these are like lip balms or lip gloss oils bombs, some kind of variation of those. Let's see, what does it say on this? A tinted balm. That's what I was trying to say. But these are so nice. I've used these so much. I love them. I think they're great. There's just amount of pigment to them that it looks like there's a little bit of color on your lips, but they're not so pigmented that like you have to worry too much about the application. But that is the one thing that I don't like about these, is that they have one of these things. So for me, who has really small lips, I feel like these were intended to be able to be used without a mirror, and because I have such small lips, I need a mirror to be able to apply these, even though they're not that pigmented, but it just goes all over my face otherwise, because I just don't like these kind of applicators for anything that's not clear. So that's the only downside. I wish if these had a doe foot, these would become my absolutely go-to lip products because they're so comfortable. They look so good. I love everything about them except for the applicator, but that again is totally a me thing, and I love these as a product. I have them on my desk here, and I've been using them pretty much every day since I got them. So I think they're great, but I don't think that I'll be, maybe I'll be putting them in my bag at some point because I usually do carry a mirror with me, but it's just like a little bit of an annoyance when it comes to a product that's probably meant to not be used with a mirror when I have to use a mirror. Do you know what I mean? Also, the last thing from the collection was a candle, which I don't have right here because it's actually outside because I've been burning it outside lately because I don't like burning candles when I have a cat because I don't trust him. So I really only burn candles if it's like in my studio here. Sometimes I have one in the background. I need to put up like my fall stuff. Why haven't I done that yet? Oh yeah, because I've barely been filming. Oh my god. Okay, anyway, that is my review of all of these releases. I hope it was at least somewhat helpful, even if it was kind of late, but I still wanted to give you my thoughts on these products because I feel like it's courteous to the brands as well for me to at least talk about these, at least the ones that I've been sent in PR. I feel really bad when I don't review stuff I don't get sent in PR, and I know I'm under no obligation to do so, but like my heart says that I should, you know, not for my own sake at all, but just because, you know, it is sort of a business transaction in a way when you get sent PR. Like brands are obviously expecting you to create content, and I get that. Like that is why they send it to you, and I want to be the person who reviews the products for you guys. So anyway, that's gonna be my rambling thoughts on these. If there are any releases that you feel like I've missed, I don't think I have, but I just have like such a mess in my room here. Like there are just like palettes and shit spread up everywhere. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to see some maybe ranking videos or something like that, I can put my playlist up on the screen. I don't have a lot of these, but if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.